probably heard of Star Citizen, a space game that has crowdfunded almost $1 billion but still isn't done and is continuing to develop regularly. But you might not know the details here, like the story missions that are now available to play, the various ships that you can earn and progress through in-game, or the handful of career paths you can already take for hundreds of hours of gameplay. What is Star Citizen? What do you do in this game? Is it even worth trying, even if it's free? These are all questions I see regularly, and to be honest, a lot has changed over the last year. More than in the last 5 prior, with almost monthly updates, narrative-driven stories, 2 new star systems, and even an alien faction coming into the game. Along with a stronger focus on performance and stability, and generally keeping the game more playable, there's no better time to check back in after a long time away, or to take a first look at the game. Today I'm going to give you a deep dive into what Star Citizen is, what it has to offer, and what's new for players joining as we enter 2026. This is a long one, so get comfortable. And thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. Star Citizen started out in 2012 as a combined games project. Star Citizen, an MMO aiming to offer a range of professions in an instanced space environment amongst a dynamically shifting economy, and Squadron 42, a solo hop-in hop-out co-op campaign within the same universe. Over time, these games were separated into their own projects, and Squadron 42 was split into 3 chapters, the first of which is scheduled to release in 2026. But we'll come back to Squadron another day. The main aim of Star Citizen, the MMO, is to make a living with a profession you enjoy, like mining, salvaging, cargo hauling, space combat, or FPS combat in space, or just doing some exploration and investigations. Personally, I like being a loot monkey. And you can also become a pirate, taking on a more combative and dangerous role, boarding ships and stealing specific cargo and items for yourself, and also keeping out of the reach of bounty hunters who can also take missions to try and track you down. This isn't the full list of planned professions, there are several more, but they are the main attractions at the moment. For all of these, except mining, you can choose to either explore the game on your own, taking a more sandbox approach, or you can take contracts from your mobiGlas system. Traveling between the locations where you're doing these things and running contracts in Star Citizen, you're gonna find that you don't run into any loading screens. Not only are there no loading screens, all game loading is done asynchronously at all times, so you rarely see a moment when things obviously need to load in all at once. This means any building, ship, planet, or space station you see can be flown to. You can go there. You can board whatever ship you'd like, go inside, travel across the system in it, or just watch somebody else fly it away. This all has some pretty immersive ramifications that even after years, will catch you by surprise. This happens currently across 3 different star systems, offering 10 planets, 19 moons, dozens of space stations, and way more surface area than I'm willing to calculate. All of these planets are generated using a mixture of artist detailing and procedural tech. Using their own custom planet creation tool, they create rivers, forests, caves, outposts, derelict ships, and more across the planet's surface. I've given a huge breakdown of how the system works in another video. I'll leave linked down below for you. It's an industry-leading piece of tech, and it is one of the most impressive parts of the whole project, making some big advancements right now. Just as an example, this system takes into account the sunlight hitting certain spots, the soil type of that spot, the elevation, the temperature, the humidity, all to define what kind of biome, vegetation, and even fauna might show up at that place. It does that for every spot on every planet. Planet creation, though, is unlike the ships in the game, which are painstakingly detailed and all artist-made. And while not always the best constructions, they are built with nuance and considerations that lead to a lot of disagreements, fan clubs, and metas across the community, within the current pool of more than 180 plus unique vehicles, all modeled inside and out. One of the best things to do in Star Citizen is to just explore these ships, EVAing around the outside, walking around the inside, and finding the overall setup of weapons and components that work right for you. That is, of course, keeping in mind that many of these ships will see slight changes, tweaks, and new features based on the development of the game overall. And with engineering gameplay coming in soon, turning this into a little bit of a Sea of Thieves and space experience, players are going to be learning their ships in new ways in 2026. Because keep in mind, the game isn't done. It's far from a 1.0 launch despite the time that it has taken. I won't get into that here, I'll link a video down below for you. But the important thing to know is that you get access to all of this gameplay, all these locations, and virtually all of the ships for $45. And while you don't need to spend any more to experience any unique gameplay, the option is always there to help fund the game, because there is no overarching publisher funding this game. It's crowdfunding, small investment, and eventual sales of Squadron 42. And you can see from the financials that they are adequately spending the money that they make. But what are they spending it on? Let me show you what you can actually do in Star Citizen and how it's been changing lately. Since 3.0 released in 2018, Star Citizen has been slowly adding new planets, outposts, ships, items, and other things that carry a level of detail and interactivity much higher than originally planned all the way back in 2012. Because of this, the game was progressively getting worse and worse in performance over the years. Full-on locations had to be removed from the game, features were held back, and regular progress in certain areas came mostly to a halt due to this server bottleneck. The game itself ran poorly, with server disconnects regularly removing players from the game and taking away virtually all of your progress that you made during that session. The server take rate hovered around 5 to 10 updates per session, and generally, players were seeing averages of anywhere from 20 to 40 frames per second. All this with just 100 players spread out across a single star system. The game was overloaded with so many things, but there was little gameplay to actually interact with them, few players to really populate the space, and inadequate performance to support much content. Hell, the FPS AI could barely even shoot back most of the time. To a pretty large extent, this is 180'd in the last 2 years, due to a number of things ultimately culminating in server meshing at the beginning of 2025. The year was characterized by regular updates featuring content that utilizes mainly existing features, regular ship releases, and stability improvements to start tightening the experience. So, while features like hacking, refining, quantum travel updates, engineering, and many other important mechanics are trickling in like they always have, we're seeing regular additions of narrative storylines to the game, new factions, talking heads, more loot and in-game rewards, and during most times, a better performing game. Without the regular feature additions that we've been seeing since 2018, and the less stable backend that we had before server meshing, the game's genuinely running better. The server frame rate is up from single digits to almost always 25 to 30 frames per second. Client-side performance on top-end computers getting 62 frames per second average last year have been hitting up to 86 frames per second on average this year, according to benchmarking by my friend and editor on the channel, 10pound42. Shard populations have also increased sixfold to now hold more than 650 players. Server disconnects don't really happen anymore, as server meshing allows other servers to continue your play session even if the one you're on dies. And when you do crash out of the game, most of the time you load right back in where you were, so no more losing all that cargo you just purchased due to a little crash. Interactions have gotten better. Ship physics now take mass calculations into consideration. Many elevator problems have been taken care of, AI is responding better, and item recovery has been temporarily changed to suit the current game, so players lose less of their stuff when they die until we get crafting in the game. There are still tons of problems with hangars, missions, quantum travel, the inventory, interaction quirks, and more. This is still Star Citizen, and the game is still far from complete, but you'll notice more things actually being taken care of to improve that experience nowadays. On the gameplay side of things, you still have the same professions available in the sandbox world. You aren't the hero here, you're just living out your life in space amongst the crowd. You can search for and mine minerals with ships, on foot, in vehicles, or using the new exosuits. You can salvage derelict ships left behind by players or NPCs either on foot or in ships. Go bounty hunting for players or NPCs on foot or in space. Raid bunkers, outposts, space stations, or asteroid facilities across the star systems. Race across a multitude of tracks with different obstacles, atmospheric densities, and gravity levels. Unofficially, I guess, since the missions themselves are still broken. Move cargo from one place to another, choosing between small ground outposts, large logistics centers, and a variety of space stations. Or you could go further and run cargo routes between star systems to benefit from resource scarcity. You can jump into contested zones, separated zones of combat in space stations throughout Pyro, where you can work your way through NPCs and players, completing puzzles and earning the highest quality items in the game. You can become a handyman and take on repair missions around the smattering of outposts in the Pyro system. And soon that system will expand into ships for players to be the engineer running around keeping the ship going in difficult times. All of this is available to you from many perspectives, and with friends or an org you can expand your operations, mining in one ship while another transports the goods back to sell, hauling larger amounts of goods in more dangerous areas making use of ship tractor beams and friendly escorts, raiding the new sandbox locations filled with NPCs, narrative missions, and some of the best loot in the game, uncovering the secrets of what's going on in the Star Citizen universe. Spoiler alert, it gets dark. These sandbox locations are actually always persistent locations too, that have a narrative to them that you can pick up to complete, possibly unlocking a major event, a resource, or a storyline for you to either pursue or do whatever else you want. These were a big focus of 2025 and I think will regularly be going forward, and in my opinion they're bringing some much needed fresh activity to some locations. They are one of the biggest changes to the game, and I definitely suggest at least the ASD underground facilities for anybody looking to follow a story. Just check out your investigation missions, and go from there. These locations will act as settings for these stories, like I said, but they also act as hotspots of activity where you can drop in just to see what happens on any given day. You are locked out of virtually nowhere in this game right now. There are also, still, the older styled temporary global events we used to run that occur throughout the year and will briefly give you a sense of what larger scale gameplay can feel like. These range from mostly combat focused events to mining and cargo hauling initiatives, and some of them will soon be hosted in instances in order to make a better packaged experience in very specific situations. In the current state of the game though, all of these things bring a little risk. The game is meant to be played pretty freely in the open environment, but security and reputation are meant to keep players much safer in specific areas. That doesn't really exist now. They've actually done a pretty terrible job at keeping up on this aspect, and because of that there's a lot more danger to everything you do, especially when those things are brand new additions to the game. Now as for acquiring new ships, it's becoming easier than ever. I think CIG does need to be careful about how they continue with Wicklow, because it's getting a little convoluted. But right now, players can earn ships by running specific in-game missions and activities, accruing in-game credits to buy at the store, or trading in specific items. You'll get faction-specific paints, armors, and other types of reward right now for participation, and they'll be permanently tied to your account. Star Citizen has a long way to go, and it has plenty of issues still bogging down the experience I'm describing here. To be honest, most people looking for a casual time should probably still wait for crucial systems to become more player-friendly. Because even though the game can be fun, the new player experience is still terrible, and a lot of simple things are still just not ready for prime time. But these current gameplay options in a large space environment not separated by any loading screens are still offering a pretty novel experience that's only improved in 2025. Between this and the FPS and stability improvements we've also been seeing, I think it's a good time to try the game out. Check around for when the next free fly event might be, or subscribe here and keep an eye on the community tab, because you're going to have the chance to play multiple times a year for free to get an idea for yourself. But that won't tell you where things are going from here, because there is still plenty to be done. So let me show you what we've got in store in the near term. The current focus for Star Citizen is actually not Star Citizen, it's Squadron 42. For that reason, the immediate priority is not adding new features to the game, so big game-changing features will continue to be added slowly. But we do have some idea of what's next. Engineering is the backbone of a lot of gameplay in Star Citizen. Ships, outposts, cities, space stations, all will run on a resource network that you have an effect on. It has finally undergone player testing and is scheduled to be in live servers by the end of 2025. Completely changing the way players manage resources in the game and integrating into most gameplay elements going forward. Right behind engineering, crafting is also in our near future. In a system similar to Star Wars Galaxies or Dune Awakening, crafting will rely on blueprints that can be tied to a player. These blueprints will allow you to craft better items than anything that can be found in game, from med pens up to spaceships. These will be a big part of the player economy, exploration, and the desire to find, acquire, and use the best resources out there. This will also fold pretty closely in with base building following closely behind. The third star system, Nyx, is bringing a more industrial focus to Star Citizen. While it was added in November of 2025, it's being built slowly over time, and with a new narrative playing out in the system, there are going to be quite a few new gameplay options for players. Rock Cracker tasks groups with repairing an old mining station, blowing open a giant asteroid within, mining out the goods inside, and then getting away before challengers arrive. A new large-scale mission is going to task groups with running a full fleet to secure a space station, hold off a new faction, and fight back the Van Duel. We're talking capital ship mechanics, bombing runs, dropship refugee extractions, fighter pilot escorts, and FPS combat on space stations all in a single event. And for many among us, inventory news is great, because Star Citizen has not been. And the company has shown multiple versions both in concept and somewhat working in-game of a new inventory screen coming soon. These are the more quality of life focused changes we've been seeing over the last couple of years. They haven't solved all of our problems, but they've been making things better. And generally, these are just a handful of the features that we do have coming along. While I have been saying they will be coming into the game slowly, there are still quite a few things that do need to come. So if you want to keep track of more of the features that will be showing up, make sure to subscribe here. Star Citizen 1.0 and Squadron 42 are the main goals of CIG, as they've been for a while. But now they are defined, and with a working game engine, the focus is making sure everything that happens is a means to those ends. We are watching the factions added to the game that will populate the location-specific side quests throughout Star Citizen 1.0. We're seeing gameplay initiatives being set in stone despite outcry from some in the community as the hard truths of how the game is going to play come more into focus. Locations are being populated with NPC personalities and stories that will actually be around for the game's release, not just purpose-built tech demos and vertical slices to one day be replaced. With a proper backend, the company is focusing more on stability, server maintenance, and a reasonable game experience. And even in the background, we're finally getting to see some proper design elements and mechanics demonstrated that players might expect in something reminiscent of some of the older greats. Is it all perfect? No. This is still a frustrating project to follow, riddled with delays and bad expectations setting. There are plenty of things the community is unhappy about, but 2025 has proven to be a year of shaping up for CIG, for better and worse, and the game you jump into will perform better than it ever has. And at this point in time, we'll also be adding more to the game every quarter than it ever has. Star Citizen is still a pretty bizarre project. It has raised and spent a ton of money, taken a lot of time, and very clearly overshot its goals and deadlines. As they reel this project in and approach a release for at least Squadron 42, it's hard not to marvel at its ability to survive, thrive, and remain somewhat playable as we watch the industry continue eating games and studios after more than 7 years in development. It's a unique experience that carries a lot of nuance that unfortunately is lost in the current jank. While it can offer some amazing opportunities, it's certainly not a game for everyone. And there's still a lot to learn about it. I tried to keep this shorter, but I do get carried away. I cover the game every week here, and every day over on Space Tomato 2 though, so if you're interested in learning more, feel free to subscribe or come ask on the live stream. I try to focus on filling in the gaps with all the things that are still missing. It's hard to blame players for thinking the game will always play as it does now, but one of the best things to remember when jumping into this game is an unfortunate truth or possibly an exciting quirk. Nothing is for sure, not even the success of this project. It could fail, it could pivot, or it could succeed beyond imagination. Enjoy what's there in the moment, spend no more than $45 to join if you want to, and consider the full experience is probably still at least a few years away. As always, if you want to make a free account on the website to take advantage of our free fly event like the one going on this month, you can use the link down below, Join Tomato. That'll get you 50,000 extra credits if you do ever want to join, and it'll support one of our own supporters in the same way. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.